قمرون قمرون قمر سيدنا النبي قمرون وجميل 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 سيدنا النبي.
Which is known as Pesach amongst the Jews, Passover. That's Yom Ashura, right? When Allah granted safety to the Israelites, when Allah parted the sea with the command with Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, and they granted safe passage to Musa alayhi salam and the Israelites. And we observe Yom Ashura by also remembering and commemorating and loving and dedicating ourselves to the martyrs of Karbala, particularly to Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam. May Allah accept our presence here this evening, and may He accept whatever we do sincerely for His sake. Inshallah, we will commence with a Naat and a Marsiya by Janab Rais Ahmad, and thereafter will the lecture, inshallah.
Sallallahu alayka ya Rasul Allah, wa sallam alayka ya Habib Allah. Deen par tumne lutaya دین پر تم نے لوٹایا گھر حسین کربلا کا کو ناز ہے تم پر حسین کربلا کو ناز تم پر اے حسین.
For the sake of the deen of Islam, Ya Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam, you sacrificed and you gave away the lives of your children and your entire home. The land of Karbala, nay, the entire universe is proud of your achievement and your sacrifice, O Hussein.
فاطمہ کے لال جانے مرتضی، فاطمہ کے لال جانے مرتضی ہے رسول اللہ کے دل بر حسین ہے رسول اللہ کے دل بر حسین.
O one who is the sweetheart of Fatima and the life of Al-Murtada, and undoubtedly you are the beloved of the Prophet of Allah, O Hussein.
ذرہ ذرہ کربلا کا کہہ اٹھا، ذرہ ذرہ کربلا کا کہہ اٹھا ہے مکمل صبر کا پیکر حسین ہے مکمل صبر کا پیکر حسین.
Every particle of Karbala, every grain of Karbala screamed out and shouted out, undoubtedly, O Hussein, you are the personification of patience.
با خدا نانا کی امت کے باخدا نانا کی امت کے لیے تم نے سجدے میں کٹایا سر حسین، تم نے سجدے میں کٹایا سر حسین.
By Allah, for the sake of the Ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you had your head severed from your blessed body, O Hussein, in a state of sajda.
ہے یہ ان کی استقامت کا کمال، ہے یہ ان کی استقامت کا کمال. سارے لشکر پر رہے برتر حسین، سارے لشکر پر رہے برتر حسین. دین پر تم نے لٹایا گھر حسین.
نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا وشفيعنا ومولانا محمد صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم، رسوله النبي الأمين المكين الحنين الكريم الرؤوف الرحيم. أما بعد، فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال الله تعالى في شان حبيبه: إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلي وفاطمة وحسن وحسين وآله وأصحابه بعدد كل مخلوقاتك. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ما كان الله ليذر المؤمنين على ما أنتم عليه حتى يميز الخبيث من الطيب. صدق الله العظيم وبلغنا رسوله النبي الكريم، ونحن على ذلك لمن الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Most respected ulama, my respected elders, brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. My topic for this evening is on Martyrs of Love, inshallah. The Oxford Dictionary has described a massacre as the indiscriminate and brutal slaughter of people, or less commonly animals, carnage, butchery, slaughter in numbers. Okay? When we look at massacres throughout history, and you'll see the entire list if you go through the internet, you will see massacres have been commonplace in history since the beginning of time. They say 260 years before Christ BC, the state of Zhao had the live burial of surrendered state of Zhao soldiers, wherein 400,000 died and they were buried alive. In 207 BC, in the Qing dynasty, you had 200,000 plus minus who were buried alive when they surrendered. And throughout history, you would have heard of massacres, the Armenian massacre. You would have heard about the Holocaust of the Jews. You would have heard about the massacre and the Holocaust that took place in Rwanda. We've seen people and thousands of lives lost. Throughout history, we have seen very, very important historical, political, social, spiritual figures, Anbiya, prophets of Allah, assassinated. In recent years, in the past century or so, you saw the great freedom fighter Mahatma Gandhi, who was assassinated. You had the President of the United States, John F. Kennedy, assassinated. You had major scholars, major leaders, political leaders, social leaders, freedom leaders, all of them having lost their lives, being assassinated, or in one way or the other sacrificing their lives for the sake of their cause, for the sake of their people, and for the sake of humanity. But when you look at these numbers, 200,000, 400,000, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, etc., etc. And you look at Karbala, only 72. Where's 400,000? Where's 200,000? Where's 50,000? Where's 15,000? And where's 72? Where's 72? The state of the Zhao dynasty, the Qi dynasty, the Armenian massacre were indeed losses. The German Holocaust, and all of these other massacres that have taken place, they are remembered. Maybe. History has recorded a line in their name. History has recorded it. You'll have a few memorials for great scholars and great leaders like Mahatma Gandhi, John F. Kennedy, Malcolm X, right? And all of these people. They will be remembered once in a while. It happens once a year. A handful of people remember them and whatever it is. But almost 1,380 years have passed. 1,380 years have passed. Until today, the entire ummah, Muslims globally mourn and remember and commemorate Al-Hussein like Karbala took place yesterday. It can never be erased from human history, leave alone Muslim history. Today, currently, tonight, I was there last year. Currently, tonight, there must be at least a minimum of 2 million people in Karbala. No exaggeration. Bigger, almost the same size, or in fact bigger than Hajj itself. 2 million people. For the Arba'een, 40 days later, the whole crowd for about, for the 7 days or 10 days or whatever it is that it takes place, up to 20 million come and visit and pay homage at the sacred maqam and monument of Imam al-Hussein in Karbala. Just 72 people were massacred. So how is it that a large number of 400,000 and 200,000 and 15,000 people barely remember? The assassination of Gandhi won't be remembered by so many people gathering to remember it. This be one state function. Or John F. Kennedy I don't think the Kennedy family will bother about it. Besides, right? But the family of Rasulullah, the family of Al-Hussein, the Shuhada of Karbala, throughout the world, 2 million people are sitting in Karbala this evening. Tomorrow the crowd will increase by another 500,000. And I'm not exaggerating. Ask the people who are with me. That's the crowd. Why? It's simple. It's not only about what he did. It's about who he is. It's not only about what he did. It's about who he is. And let me tell you who he is. That's why 1,380 years later, millions of people on planet Earth, millions of angels in the heavens, millions of jinn still mourn the martyrdom of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Because why are you so great, Hussein? What is so significant about you, O Hussein? What is significant about your martyrdom, O Hussein? It is because who you are. And who are you? Ask his grandfather. Ask his grandfather. The hadith is in Al-Tabrani. And Ibn Abbas, Abdullah ibn Abbas narrates it. قال Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The Prophet of Allah addressed the people. He said, أيها الناس ألا أخبركم بخير الناس جدا وجدا. He said, shall I not inform you, O people, as to the best of those people, who their grandfather and their grandmother is? He said, ألا أخبركم بخير الناس عما وعما. Shall I not inform you about the best, who have the best uncle and the best paternal uncle and paternal aunt? ألا أخبركم بخير الناس خالا وخالة. Shall I not inform you who are the best in terms of having the best maternal uncle and maternal aunt? He said, ألا أخبركم بخير الناس أبا وأمة. Shall I not inform you about those who are the best, who have the best father and the best mother? ألا أخبركم. This is Rasulullah. This is not rhetoric. This is not rhetoric. Right? He said, who are they? Hum al-Hasan wal-Hussein. The Prophet of Allah said, shall I not inform you who are the best in terms of grandfather and grandmother? And who is their grandfather? Rasulullah. Who's their grandmother? Khadijat al-Kubra. Who's their uncle? Who is their uncle? The Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa said, and he said, Jadduhuma Rasulullah wa jaddatuhuma Khadija bint Khuwaylid wa ummuhama Fatima bint Rasulillah wa abuhuma Ali ibn Abi Talib. And their paternal uncles are Ja'far bin Abi Talib wa ammatuhuma Hani bint Abi Talib. Ja'far al-Tayyar, the one who flies with wings in paradise, is their maternal uncle. Hani is their paternal uncle. And who is their uncle? وَخَالُهُمَا Al-Qasim bin Rasulullah. And who is their maternal uncle? The son of Rasulullah, Sayyidina Qasim, the Prophet ﷺ's son. وَخَالَتُهُمَا Zainab wa Ruqayya wa Kulsum. And their maternal uncles are Zainab, Ruqayya and Kulsum. And then the Prophet of Allah ﷺ said, Binatu Rasulullah, Jadduhuma fil Jannah. Their grandfather is in Jannah. وَأَبُوهُمَا fil Jannah. And their father is in Jannah. وَأُمُّهُمَا fil Jannah. And their mother is in Jannah. وَعَمُّهُمَا fil Jannah. وَعَمَّتُهُمَا fil Jannah. وَخَالَتُهُمَا fil Jannah وَهُمَا fil Jannah. Their fathers, their uncles, their grandfather, their uncles, their aunts, their mothers, their fathers, their maternal uncles, everybody, all of them are in Jannah. Now you know why Hussein can never be forgotten? Because the people of paradise are his family. You know, today, if you ask me what is one of the 7 wonders of the world, right? They will tell you in terms of architecture, nothing beats the Taj Mahal. It's one of the 7 wonders of the world. It's a monument of love. A love of Shah Jahan for his wife Mumtaz Mahal. I tell him, leave it out. Carry it out. Leave Agra and Taj Mahal on one side. Built with forced labor. The greatest monument of love is in one small province called Nineveh. In a small town called Karbala, where Hussein and Abbas Alamdar, both of them, bin Ali, and their families are buried. The greatest monument of love is there. The monument of Taj Mahal was Shah Jahan's love for Mumtaz. But the monument in Karbala is the love of Rasulullah for Hussein. The monument in Karbala is the love of Hussein for Allah, his love for Rasulullah, his love for the book of Allah, his love for the deen of Allah. And because he knew him and his family are Hablullah, the rope of Allah. That's the greatest monument of love. That's the greatest expression of love that you will find in human history. And millions of people go to the Taj Mahal to admire the monument, not the person inside. People go to Karbala, on the other hand, to honor the martyr inside, not the monument. That is Karbala. Why is it so significant from a spiritual perspective? Why do we only talk about Karbala? Why do we only talk about the significance of Hussein? I touched on it in terms of hadith early on, but I want to give you a philosophical perspective this evening. People, they warned me and said, no, you gave enough hiding Jummah time now. Calm down. Right? You see, one thing you must understand, the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, وَإِنَّ الْعُلَمَاءَ وَرَثَةُ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ. Verily the scholars of my ummah are the inheritors of the prophets. Now when it comes to Ahlul Kisa, the folk of the cloak, the ulama of the ummah are Ali. And Ali is the inheritor of the complete legacy of Anbiya alayhimus salatu wasalam. He is Babul Ilm and Rasulullah is Madinatul Ilm. He is the door of knowledge and Rasulullah is the city of knowledge. Ali is the door of wisdom and Rasulullah is the city of wisdom or the abode of wisdom. Darul Hikmah, Rasulullah. So this is the legacy of Anbiya. If you go through the Holy Quran and you carefully study the Holy Quran, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the stories of Anbiya, right? He speaks about it in great detail. And the Hussein and Ahlul Bayt being the foremost inheritors of the legacy of Anbiya alayhimus salatu had to continue the legacy. So if you do a comparative study of Karbala and the events of Karbala, and you do a study of all of the incidents and the historical events that took place in the life of Anbiya alayhimus salatu wasalam, you will see that Karbala is a historic legacy of the lives and the trials and the tribulations and the grief and the pain and the sorrows and the tests that Anbiya and alayhimus salam and their families went through. Karbala reflects and Karbala echoes the lives, the trials, the tribulations of Anbiya alayhimus salatu wasalam. Wallahi, I went through the Quran and I looked at all the trials of Anbiya, and everywhere you'll see a jhalak, you'll see a glimpse, you'll see a reflection, you see an echo of what happens in Karbala. And this can't be coincidence. This can't just be coincidence. I'll just give you an idea, right? Now, I want you to understand. Quran is speaking in detail about some of the difficulties that Anbiya go through, their wives go through, their children go through. Can you see it's a family matter? It's a family affair. And what's Karbala? It's a family matter. It's about Ahlul Bayt. Remember, 17 of the Ahlul Bayt, the direct blood of Rasulullah, are martyred in Karbala. 17. And almost all of them are the direct descendants of Ali. And if it's not Ali, it's his brothers. Ja'far, his brothers, Aqil, and so on. What are we saying? Who gave their lives for Karbala? The sons of Abu Talib. I hope you got that. The sons and the grandsons of Abu Talib gave their lives in Karbala for Islam. And out of them, most of them are direct blood of Ali. That's who stood in Karbala. Okay? When we look at it, look at each aspect of every life of every Nabi, and you'll see those glimpses coming through. And this is not by chance, it's by design, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's design. Right? Can you imagine the situation, the pain, the trauma, the anxiety, the grief, the worry that Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam goes through, right? When he has to leave his son, who's a baby, who's a toddler, like Ali Asghar in Karbala. Ismail alayhi salam is a toddler. Okay? They leave him in a desolate, barren desert. Karbala, that's in Makkah. Karbala is a desolate, barren desert. Can you imagine the pain of Ibrahim alayhi salam? Allah records it. He said, Rabbana, oh my Lord, inni askantu min dhurriyyati biwadin ghayri dhi zar'in 'inda baytika al-muharram. Karbala was an empty, barren place. Empty, there's nothing there, no vegetation, nothing. بِوَادٍ غَيْرِ ذِي زَرْعٍ عِنْدَ بَيْتِكَ الْمُحَرَّمِ. He said, Ya Allah, I'm leaving my zuriyah, my progeny, in an empty, barren desert, where it's uninhabitable, it's uncultivable, it has no vegetation in it, except بَيْتِكَ الْمُحَرَّمِ, except the ruins of your blessed house. Ibrahim alayhi salam makes this dua. His wife, Bibi Hajar, runs after him in Sahih al-Bukhari. And she says, where are you leaving us? Where are you abandoning us? He speaks about the desert, barren land. And she asked him, is this from Allah? And he says, yes. He didn't even say yes. He didn't even turn around and look at her. He just walked away. And he just nodded. He said, if it is from Allah, Allah will take care of us. Without water, without food. Karbala, without water, without food. The Euphrates is right there. The water is accessible for every. And Hur bin Yazid al-Riyahi, who was a commander in the army of Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad and the leader, Yazid bin Muawiyah. He says, and he looks at the condition of Hussein and his family, and he says, Ya Umar bin Sa'd, you are the commander of the army. Umar bin Sa'd bin Abi Waqas, his father is one of the 10 promised Jannah by Rasulullah. And he is on the battlefield fighting against the king of Jannat. Can you understand the irony? The father is one of the 10 who's been guaranteed Jannat by Rasulullah. And the son is fighting the king of Jannat in Karbala. And the father himself in Sahih Muslim, he said, Ya Allah, I seek refuge in the one he's on this mount. I seek refuge in him. When the person came closer, they realized it was Amr bin Sa'd, his son. They said, but that's your son. He said, yeah, I seek refuge in Allah from him. Because his father had the firasa, the insight to see what his son would do. Right? So the water, Zamzam, there's no water. Ismail alayhi salam, a toddler. Ali Asghar is a toddler. Right? What happens? Hur bin Yazid al-Riyahi tells Amr bin Sa'd, he says, Euphrates water is running here. It's close to the family of Rasulullah. Those who have the keys of fountain of Al-Kawthar in their hands, it's close to them. But it is open for every animal, for every beast, for every Yahudi, Majusi, Christian to drink from. But the family of Rasulullah can't drink a droplet of water from there? Allahu Akbar. Can you imagine? Can you imagine the state? Bibi Hajar runs between the hillocks of Safa and Marwa looking for water in a state of desperation. Can you imagine the state of Rabab, the wife of Imam Hussein, Layla, the wife of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, Sayyida Zainab bint Ali, the daughter of Ali, all have their children there. There's one Ali Asghar, but there are plenty other children there, plenty other women there, all of them suffering from thirst for the past 3 days. From the 7th of Muharram, water is closed for them. Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam said, Ya Allah, I'm leaving my family in a barren, uninhabited place, uncultivable place. You know what Rasulullah said? Sayyidina Imam Hussein traveled and he came to Taf. Taf was the old name of Karbala. And he traveled around there for a period of time. And the whole day they went around in circles. In the night they realized, you know what? We're going around in circles. So Imam Hussein asked the people, what is this area called? They said, Ya Imam Hussein, masmu hadha al-ard. He said, what is the name of this earth? This is hadith. Sahih hadith. He said, this is hadha Taf, or Karbala. This place is known as Taf, or it is known as Karbala. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam immediately stopped. He said, Sadaqallahu wa rasuluh. Allah and his Rasul have spoken the truth. He said, Ardu karbin wa bala'in. He said, the name itself is Ard, Karb and Bala. Karb means, difficulty and trial and tribulation, and Bala means calamity. Ardu karbin wa bala'in. Meaning Rasulullah had informed him. Therefore he said, Sadaqallahu wa rasuluh. Allah and his beloved has spoken the truth. Ardu karbin wa bala'in. The place of karb, difficulties, calamities, and sorrow, calamities. Karbala. He stopped. He said, this is our place. Why? Rasulullah said to him, Ibrahim alayhi salam can't hold back his tears. He can't control himself when he leaves his wife and his children there. But imagine Ali al-Murtada, karramallahu ta'ala wajhahul kareem. It is narrated in Sahih, in Hadith of Musnad Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, and it is narrated there. He says, there's it here. وهو منتقل إلى صفين فنادى علي رضي الله تعالى عنه. Ali al-Murtada رضي الله تعالى عنه was back from his campaign from Siffin when he was fighting against Amir Muawiyah رضي الله عنه, right? And he stopped by Karbala. He knows the history. He's seen the sand and the dust of Karbala, which was brought by an angel to the Prophet of Allah. Ali has seen it. So has Abu Bakr and Umar and Salama radiallahu ta'ala anhum. All of them have seen. When Ali comes to Karbala, he just stops for a little while. He stops his animals and whatever it is, and his retinue. He stops them. And then after a while, Ali shouts out, Isbir ya Abadallah. Isbir ya Aba Abdullah. Isbir ya, 3 times he says, Isbir ya Abdullah, ya Aba Abdullah, Isbir ya Aba Abdullah, Isbir ya Abadallah, ya Aba Abdullah. He said, Bishattil Furat. He said, be patient, O father of Abdullah, at the banks of the river Euphrates. Be patient, O Hussein. ND 784156. Please move your car a little back to make place for tables. ND 874156. Please remove your car so that we can make place for the tables. Ali alayhi salatu wassalam cries out 15 years or so before Karbala used to take place. Isbir ya Aba Abdullah. Inda Shattil Furat. So ask him, Ya Imam, what are you saying? He said, because Rasulullah informed me, and he gave the entire story, how the angel had come down, and he came with the sand of Karbala. Can you imagine Ali's anxiety, Ali's grief, Ali's sorrow? And then in Kashful Ghumma, it says, he said, Atayna ma'u mawdi'a qabr al-Husayn. The narration says, we came to the place where now Imam al-Hussein is buried. And Ali alayhi salam responded, he said, Ha huna munakhu rikabihim. Ali alayhi salam walks in the area of Karbala and he points out to them, because Rasulullah has told him already, here, this is where the camels will alight and they'll be tied. And then he says there, he said, وَمَوْضِعُ رِحَالِهِمْ, and this is where they will set up their tents. He said, وَهَا هُنَا, and he says here, وَهَا هُنَا مُهْرَاقُ دِمَائِهِمْ, and this is where their blood will be shed. Can you imagine a father walking on the battlefield 15 years before, and he's telling you, Ali is saying, this is where the camels will be mounted and will be seated and left. This is where the camps will be set up, the tents will be set up, and this is where, and he's looking at it. Who? Abbas, Alamdar, his sons from Ummul Banin, Hassan, Imam al-Hussein, Ali Asghar, Ali Akbar, Aoun, Muhammad. You know who's Aoun and Muhammad? Sayyida Zainab's children. The daughter of Ali, the lioness of Karbala, is Zainab binti Ali. Our ummah doesn't know who Zainab binti Ali is. Aoun Muhammad. Bibi Hajra radiallahu ta'ala anha wa alayha salatu wasalam, she runs in a state of disarray, in a state of confusion because she can't find water. Right? And all of a sudden water gushes out from the floor of the Kaaba, Zamzam. Can you imagine the condition of Rabab? Can you imagine the condition of Zainab? Can you imagine the condition of Sayyidah Layla, the wives of Imam Hussein, the sister of Imam Hussein, when they don't see water gushing out, when they see blood gushing out from the throat of Ali Asghar? Can you imagine the condition of the father, Sayyidina Imam Hussein alayhi salatu, who is sitting holding his 6-month-old child, who's thirsty for 3 days. And at that time, the man whose name is Ibn Mawqidin Nar, he fires an arrow, and the arrow pierces the throat of Imam Hussein alayhi salam's 6-month-old son Ali Asghar, and the blood shoots through it, and Imam Hussein sees the blood gushing out like this and here, and Imam Hussein picks up the baby and he realizes he's lost his child. Tell me the grief. Tell me the pain. Tell me the sorrow. One narration says, I'm going through so many because everything is in my head. One narration states there that when he picked up his son, this is Ali Asghar, the baby, the 6-month-old. He had another son by the name of Ali Akbar, Ali the bigger one. When Ali Akbar was finally martyred, and I'll come to that just now. When Ali Akbar was finally martyred, they say Imam Hussein alayhi salam had a few grey hairs. He was about 57 years old at that time, by the way. I don't think he was 11, 12. 57 years old, plus minus, Imam Hussein alayhi salam. When he went and picked up the body and the lash of his martyred son Ali Akbar, they say the trauma of picking up his son and seeing him mortally wounded affected him so much that he literally turned grey within minutes. Literally, like he went grey. They say they never saw somebody so traumatized in their life. Ali Asghar, what happens to Ali Asghar? When the blood shoots out, Imam al-Hussein scoops up some of his son's blood. He's trying to pick up the blood. He scoops up some of the blood. And he says, Allahumma in kunta in kana habasta alayna al-nasr fansurna ala al-qawmi al-zalimin. Oh, kama qal. He said, Ya Allah, if it is your decree, look at his rida bil qada. Look at his being, pleased with the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ya Allah, if you have decreed that you are going to prevent any help from divine help from me, fansurna ala al-qawmi al-zalimin, then help us against these oppressive people. He understood it. That's all he says. And Imam al-Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam goes through this. Imagine the trauma. Sayyidina Musa alayhi salatu wasalam's mother was worried about being able to breastfeed Musa alayhi wa awhayna ila ummi Musa an ardi'i. Allah speaks about this in the Holy Quran. It's an insignificant thing, man. Historically, this is Quran, this is the final book of God. Why speak about how the mother is worried about Musa alayhi salatu salam? So if you ask me, Hussein, but why are you talking about intricate details here that Ali Asghar? No. So why is Allah speaking about that the mother of Musa alayhi salatu salam is worried about how she must feed him? Why? Because this is how you talk about your beloveds. Everything that hurts them, everything that causes the pain, you want to mention it. Right? Allah said, فَإِذَا خِفْتِ عَلَيْهِ فَأَلْقِيهِ فِي الْيَمِّ. He said, but if you are fearing for his life, then put him into the little thing there, let him go into the river there. Imagine every mother who sees Ali Akbar coming out, who sees Qasim bin Hassan coming out, who sees all of the family of Ahlul Bayt. The mothers are standing there and seeing Zainab is seeing Aun walking out, Zainab is seeing Muhammad walking out, and they know that they're not coming back. What hearts those mothers must have. That here the mother of Musa doesn't want to leave her son, just in case he is martyred. And Zainab and Rabab and Layla and Banin all see their sons walking out, all knowing full well that they are going to a slaughterhouse, that they're going to be martyred. There's the narration of Qasim bin Hassan. They say Qasim bin Hassan came out and he's the son of Hassan. He's beautiful. He comes out in that day, it was culture at that time. He comes out with 2 pearl-like earring type of things on his both ears. And he says he comes out in a condition when he's wearing sandals and the one, the strap of his one sandal is almost broken. And he comes out and his uncle tells him, oh my son, go back. Go back. He says, no, Amma. Oh, no, my uncle. I'm here to stand with you. You know why I'm talking about this? Quran speaks about the condition that the Sahaba Kiram, the frightening condition that they found themselves in when they were standing in the battle of Ahzab, Khandaq, in the battle of Badr. Quran says, إِذْ جَاءَتْكُم مِّن فَوْقِكُمْ وَمِنْ أَسْفَلَ مِنْكُمْ وَإِذْ زَاغَتِ الْأَبْصَارُ. Quran speaks about the terror and the fear Sahaba are facing. We know when the winds are blowing in Khandaq. وَإِذْ زَاغَتِ الْأَبْصَارُ. When your eyes popped out. وَبَلَغَتِ الْقُلُوبُ الْحَنَاجِرُ. And your hearts came to your throats out of fear. Quran is speaking about Ahzab. Quran is speaking about Sahaba. Allah is saying that the hearts came onto their throats. Their eyes were wide open out of fear. Look at this army that is before us. And then, of course, you have Qasim bin Hassan. You have Ali Akbar. What? Nothing. No fear. Their hearts are not in their mouths. We're not comparing, but we're telling you, the Quran is telling you the degree of fear. Here, there's 72 on one side, 4,000 on the other side. 313 in Badr, 1,000 on the other side. Here, 72 and 4,000. And what happens? Ali Akbar, when he walks out, and when he comes out there like a lion. No fear, no concern. Why? Ali ka ghar bhi kya ghar hai? What house is the house of Ali? Ke us ghar ka har ek bachcha. Because every child from the house of Ali, jahan paida hua, shere khuda malum hota hai. This is the house of Ali. And what a house it is. Because every child that is born in the house of Ali is a lion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Qasim bin Hassan comes out, and his uncle here, and he puts him back. He says, no, my uncle, I have to defend Islam and defend your honor. And when he comes out there, he fights fearlessly. The people are amazed that these are, by the way, these are not 20-year-old men. These are not 30-year-old men. These are 14, 15, 16-year-old youth. Ali Akbar was at best 18 years. Ali Asghar is a baby, 6 months old. These are youth fighting seasoned soldiers. This is Ahlul Bayt for you. This is Ahlul Bayt for you. Okay, and when they come out from there, eventually, Qasim bin Hassan, the son of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, is martyred. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam wants to reach his body, and he can't reach his body because they want to mutilate the body of Qasim bin Hassan. The narrators state that Imam Hussein went into such a rage that he went wielding his sword. And by the way, the sword he's coming with, Sahih al-Bukhari, the sword that he's wielding is Zulfiqar. The sword of Rasulullah in Badr, given to Ali as a reward and as a prize for being the hero of Badr. That son is carrying that sword, Zulfiqar. But alas, when Ali wielded it in Badr, when he wielded it in Uhud, when he wielded it in Khaybar, when he wielded it in Khandak, he wielded it against the kuffar. Today Hussein has to fight those people who read the same kalima as he does. Allahu Akbar. When he went out there, Imam Hussein decimated the army just to get back his nephew. Do you know why? Because his nephew, when he's on his last few breaths there, he shouts out for his uncle. He said, Ya Amma, oh my dear uncle. The way he cried out, Imam al-Hussein didn't even think twice. He rushed into the battlefield to go and save Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. There was so much of fear and pain in his heart that Sayyida Zainab, for the first time, the daughter of Ali al-Murtada, came running out of a khayma. Remember, the household of the Prophet of Allah was royal family. The only original royal family is the house of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The sun and the sky has never seen their heads. Never seen their faces. Okay? She runs out, realizing what is going on inside them. And then she comes, and Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam leaves the lash and the body of Imam Qasim bin Hassan alayhi salam there. And then she holds him to his chest until he breathes his last few moments. Right? Every aspect of every life of every Nabi is mentioned in every aspect. And so because of time, I don't want to go into details, right? Of the Shuhada Karbala Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'in. There's one Nabi. Like I said, this is the legacy of prophets. Do you know there's one Nabi that was decapitated? Do you know there was one Nabi who lost his head? Innal ulama warathatul anbiya. And the Ahlul Bayt are warathatul anbiya. And if you see the hadith of Mustadrak bin Hakim, there is a similarity and there's a commonality between Yahya alayhi salatu salam, the son of Zakaria alayhi salatu salam, and Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Imam al-Hussein went to Karbala for the protection and the preservation of deen. And Sayyidina Yahya alayhi salatu salam spent his life in Palestine, right, for the protection and the preservation of deen. Eventually, when Imam Sayyidina Yahya alayhi salam did not allow the king of the time to marry, this is Sahih Hadith, to marry his own niece because of blood relations, that you can't marry this one inside here. So she came there and she seduced the king. And the king asked her, what do you have? What do you want, as a prize for this? She said, I want the head of Yahya. I want the head of Yahya. So seduced by dunya. Seduced by dunya. Seduced by the world and the enjoyment of the world, the king goes and hunts Yahya alayhi salatu salam down with his army. Hunts him down. brings him to the court, and then severs the head of Yahya alayhi salam from his body. Yeah. And then the head is severed and brought before the king on a platter. And the king presents it to that woman there, that unchaste woman. And he shows it to her. He said, there's your gift. The head of Yahya on a plate. And then Sahih al-Bukhari. Sahih al-Bukhari. Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad. Sahih al-Bukhari. Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad. The Rawi says in Sahih al-Bukhari, he says, I was there when the blessed head of Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam was brought before Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad. And Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad mirrored exactly what Yazid did there later. Right? And they're standing there, the head of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam is on the tasht and on the platter there. And Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad is moving the head around of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, like toying with it, so to speak. And great sahabis like Zayd bin Arqam. You don't know what a high caliber sahabi that is. Zayd bin Arqam is there. Zayd bin Arqam went into a fit of rage. And he said, oh, Ubaidullah, stop doing what you are doing. The very place where your whip is, I saw the lips of the Prophet of Allah kiss. And he said a few words. People say, Wallah, right? If Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad had heard what Zayd bin Arqam said, he would have killed Zayd bin Arqam there and then. So Ubaidullah said to him, it is because of your seniority in age and that you're a senior sahabi that I'm not punishing you and killing you. Zayd bin Arqam looked at him. He said, what seniority of age? And what the fact that I'm a sahabi? Here you severed the head of Rasulullah's son and you worried about my age. Huh? Yazid in the court of Yazid. There's a very popular fake news that goes around. I'm giving you modern terms. No, Yazid had nothing to do with Karbala. Yazid was innocent. Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad, his commander, the governor of Kufa, and his commander Amr bin Sa'ad were responsible for it. Yazid would have never permitted it. Yazid would have never allowed it. Two answers to that. One is, you are the president of the Muslim empire. False president. What you call it? Unelected president. You are the tyrant of the Muslim empire. You rule the Muslim empire. Show me one battle in which George Bush went to. Show me one battle that Donald Trump went to. Show me one battle that Ronald Reagan went to. Show me one battle that Vladimir Putin went to. But who's held responsible? Do you know who was the commander of the army of Afghanistan? The general of the army of Afghanistan? The general in the army in Iraq? The general of the army in Syria? Anybody knows their names? No. But you know George Bush, nah? You know him. You know Tony Blair, don't you? Because the responsibility comes from where? Orders come from where? There. Point number one. Point number two, if Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad did this unilaterally, did this on his own, without instructions from Yazid, what should you do to a man who's responsible for the massacre and the martyrdom of Hussein? The qisas, the blood wit for a normal human being is a life for a life. This is the life of Rasulullah. What happened to Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad? Yazid, did you kill him? No. Did you charge him? No. Did you incarcerate him? Did you put him in jail? No. Did you call him to account? No. Did you send him a letter of reprimand at least? No. What did you do instead? No, you rewarded him. But no, Yazid had nothing to do with it. Yazid is innocent in the whole matter. Now, I don't want to go into that history. I'm not interested in that Palid. Okay? But you go into history, read what Yazid did when the head of Imam al-Hussein came. Abu Barza al-Aslami radiallahu ta'ala who was there. He read a few words and he recited a few words of shairi, poetry of another poet, which the gist of which is this. He said, those people who stand up against us there, we smash their heads. The head of Hussein is in front of him and he says, those who stand up against us and try to challenge our authority, we smash their skulls. That's the word. We smash their skulls because they don't know they were zalim to themselves. Is that a man who shows contrition? Is that a man that has nothing to do with it? Huh? Make up your mind. Remember, Yazid's where he's going to be, no, nobody has an idea. Where Hussein is going to be, we know. He's going to be in Jannat. Okay? Very quickly. Right. Imam al-Hussein, when he comes to the battlefield, and I'm going to conclude with these few remarks here. When Imam al-Hussein came to the battlefield, right, he's lost his entire family. He's seen his entire family massacred in front of him. Yet nobody has the courage to take on Imam al-Hussein. Nobody has the courage. until Amr bin Sa'd and Shimr bin Ziljoshan got to him right there and he said, what's wrong with you people? You people are behaving like women, too afraid to take on Al-Hussein, until an entire army converged on him. They didn't converge on him one-on-one. They sent spears first. A whole volley of spears come to Hussein. He's standing alone in the battlefield. Nobody there. Everybody else is dead. Everybody else is martyred. He's standing alone in the field. He's ready to take them on. Nobody wants to come. They're all standing afar and they start with their spears. When they hit him with the spears, with the arrows, right? He was injured with 33 arrows piercing his body. After 33 arrows, and before that, one had pierced him here, by his this part here, the clavicle or whatever it's called, I'm not sure, right? The clavicle here, pierced with it there. When his son was martyred, Ali Asghar was martyred, he was also pierced with it on his clavicle here. He pulled that one out, right? 33 arrows and spear wounds on his body. When he finally falls because of all of those arrows being hit against him there, then a whole group of the army, right, converge on Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein still takes them on and wields his swords, and he sends some of them to hell. Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Eventually, after 34 stab wounds, Imam Hussein is being dealt the fatal blow, right? And at that moment there, to deal the fatal blow, Shimr bin Ziljoshan comes. Now I want to show you something. You see, we talk about Islam. This was the battle of Islam, and this was again a battle of truth against falsehood. Both sides of the army are Muslim. Do you know Shimr bin Ziljoshan, according to historians, performed plus minus 17 Hajjs walking. He walked and performed Hajj from wherever he was. He was in Damascus in Sham. He walked from there for Hajj and he walked back 17 Hajjs like this. And after 17 Hajjs, Shimr bin Ziljoshan is now standing right there when Imam al-Hussein is mortally wounded. And he wants to now kill Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam looks at him. Last few moments and he says, Sadaqa Rasulullah. The Rasul of Allah has spoken the truth. And the Prophet of Allah said, it is as if I see what you would call it, albino dog lapping the blood of my household. That's the words of the Prophet of Allah. Shimr bin Ziljoshan had the vertigo. Okay? And Imam al-Hussein, in last word, he says, Sadaqa Rasulullah. Rasulullah spoke the truth. This is the man that the Prophet of Allah described to me will kill me. And then Shimr bin Ziljoshan, dealt the final mortal blow. And thereafter, Sinan, he's a grandson of a Sahabi. Sinan severs the head of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salatu salam from the body of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Wait, let me show you brutality. Let me show you massacre. Let me show you slaughter. Those are the words how I describe massacre and slaughter. Let me show you massacre. Who is this? He is the one who sat on the shoulders of the Prophet of Allah. He is the one who slept on the chest of Prophet of Allah. He is the one the Prophet of Allah used to kiss and used to smell Hussein. He is the one. You know what Amr bin Sa'd instructs, the commander of the army instructs? Read Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya. Amr bin Sa'd instructs 10 horsemen to mount their horses. After the head of Imam al-Hussein is severed from his body, head is separate, body is separate. Wait for it. They removed the clothes of Imam al-Hussein. The words that they took off his sharawil, they took off his clothes, he's unclothed like Ibrahim alayhi salam. I told you, similarly, Ibrahim alayhi salam is being thrown into the fire of Namrud. They removed his clothes. That's why he'll be clothed first on the day of Qiyamah. Imam al-Hussein is martyred. They take out his clothes. And then Amr bin Sa'd instructs 10 horsemen to ride and trample over the body of al-Hussein. Allahu Akbar. 10, not one. What's the average weight of a horse? 400, 500 kilos. 10 horses, 10 are tramping one after the other upon the body of Imam al-Hussein. And then you read your Maghrib, your Asr Salah mustn't become Qaza. And you read the Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Ali Muhammad. Ya Allah, bless Muhammad and the family of Muhammad. What will Amr bin Sa'd say? Oh yes, by the way, I just about 5 minutes ago, before my Asr Salah, I trampled the body of al-Hussein with 10 horses. Huh? What Islam is this? What deen is this? These are the people who are closest to the ear of the Prophet of Allah. Barely 50 years have passed. Ay, ya, ya. Ya Allah. And then this I cannot not speak about. And inshallah ta'ala we'll conclude with it, inshallah ta'ala. Right? Sayyidina Zainab radiyallahu ta'ala anha wa alayha salatu wassalam. When finally Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam comes out and he's martyred, his head is severed from his body. Finally the women whose heads have never been seen by the sky or by the sun, the army rushes into the khayma and the tent of the family of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, and they walk inside there. They snatch the parda and the hijab from their heads. Snatch it. Expose their faces to all and sundry. Expose them. Pull them out. Drag them out. Drag them out. Lock them up in chains. You know how? The chains are tied, the hands are tied together to their necks. You know, you have that yoke here, right? And the hand, the women of the household of the Prophet of Allah, who used to wear the most beautiful bangles, today are prisoners in chains, like this. And each one of them is tied to the other, you know, like in a line, like a chain. One after the each one is tied to the other one. So they're walking in a chain. As they come out, they realize what has happened to Al-Hussein. And in that moment there, the lioness of Karbala, Zainab alayha salatu wassalam. He said, فَلَمَّا مَرُّوا بِمَكَانِ الْمَعْرِكَةِ رَأَى الْحُسَيْنُ وَأَصْحَابِهِ مُجَدَّلِينَ. He says, وَأَهْلُهَا وَهِيَ تَبْكِي وَنَبَتْ زَيْنُبَهَا أَخَاهَا الْحُسَيْنُ وَأَهْلَهَا فَقَالَتْ وَهِيَ تَبْكِي. Zainab alayhi salam comes out and she sees Hussein in the condition where his body is on one side, his body is being trampled upon by 10 horses, and she stands up there and she says, Ya Muhammadah, Ya Muhammadah. She's talking to her grandfather. She's addressing him. She says, Ya Muhammadah, Ya Muhammadah, O Muhammad, O Muhammad, Salli alayka malaikatus sama. Look at her adab, even after seeing her brother in a traumatized state, after seeing her sons, Own and Muhammad, her nephews Qasim, Ali Asghar, Ali Akbar, she stands and she says, Ya Muhammadah, Ya Muhammadah, Salli ala malaikatus sama. May the angels of the heavens send salawat upon you, Ya Rasulullah. What did Zainab see? She should have said, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, but she's saying, Ya Muhammadah, Ya Muhammadah. Maybe she saw what Abdullah ibn Abbas saw. He saw it in a dream. Maybe she saw it in real life. Allah removed the veils from her eyes. Because the Prophet of Allah said, whosoever sees me in a dream will certainly see me at one time in a waking state. So if Jalaluddin Sayyuti can see the Prophet of Allah posthumously in a waking state, Zainab bint Ali can't see him? Abdullah ibn Abi Jamra, the writer of Sahih al-Bukhari, the Sharih of Sahih al-Bukhari, saw the Prophet of Allah in a waking state 50 times, and he wrote a whole risala on every time he saw the Prophet of Allah with his eyes open. He can see, but Zainab bint Ali can't see. Huh? So she says, Ya Muhammadah, Ya Muhammadah, Salli ala malaikatus sama, Hada Husaynun bil ara. She's showing him, Ya Rasulullah, there's Hussein. He's lying here in the dust. Muzammalun bid dama' and murammalun bid dama'. He said his body is drenched with blood. Muqatta'ul a'za. And every limb of his has been severed from his body. Ya Muhammadah. She calls out to her grandfather again, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, wa banatuka sabaya, and your daughters are now prisoners of war. Wa banatuka sabaya, wa dhurriyyatuka muqattalatun tasfi alayha as-sabah, and your entire progeny, I'm using the words now, Aoun, Muhammad, Ali Akbar, Ali Asghar, Abbas Alamdar, Qasim bin Hassan, Abdullah, Ali Asghar, Ali Akbar, all of them, Ya Rasulullah, your entire progeny is lying there martyred and massacred. And the wind is throwing dust upon their bodies. Right? The narrator says, قال فأبكت والله كل عدو وصديق. When she made the statement here, even the Yazidi army and even the allies of the Ahlul Bayt, both of them wept openly. Even the army, imagine the trauma Zainab bint Ali must have gone through. Huh? What are we talking about? Who are we talking about here? I didn't even start, trust me, I didn't even start about the real war yet. The real war, that was the one war on the battlefield. The real war was the war of words. The real war was the Afdalul Jihad. Kalimatu adlin inda sultanin jaid. The Prophet of Allah said, the greatest jihad is to speak words of truth to power. Who did that? Who did that? Without any discrimination between men and women, we all regard them as equal in that sense, in the true Quranic sense. Okay? But Imam Hussein to take on Yazid, don't worry. I don't need you. I don't need to take you on, Yazid, as if. I don't need to take you on. My sister is enough for you. My sister is enough for you. And wallah, when she stood up in the court of Yazid, the lioness of Ali, from the house of Ali, she said to him, Anta musallat amirul mu'mineen. She said to him on his face, Anta musallat amirul mu'mineen. You've usurped the position of amirul mu'mineen. And she said to him, you, your father, and your grandfather got deen from my father, my grandfather. She said to him, and Yazid could do nothing about it. That is who Ahlul Bayt are. I just gave you one portion of it, right? But you know, the Shair states over here, he says, شفاعة جده يوم الحساب أتحسب أن أمة قتلت حسينا. And this is the lesson for us. They say when Imam al-Hussein's head, severed head, was being taken back to Kufa before it went to Yazid, they stopped in one place. And they stopped in a, like what you would call it, a monastery. And they say that Imam Allama ibn Kasir says al-Bidayah wa Nihaya. They saw something written on one of the walls of the monastery that they went up. And it said, Atarju ummatan qutilat Husayna shafa'ata jaddihi yawm al-hisabi. It's written there on the monastery wall where Imam al-Hussein's head was placed. You know, when they were coming back on the way. They said, does that community and that nation that mercilessly murdered Al-Hussein in Karbala, do they genuinely expect the shafa'at and the intercession of his grandfather on the day of reckoning? The soldiers saw that and they asked them, where did this come from? They said, this has been here for the past 300 years. أَتَرْجُوا أُمَّةً قُتِلَتْ حُسَيْنًا شَفَاعَةَ جَدِّهِ يَوْمَ الْحِسَابِ. Wallah, today, in this condition, and I will conclude with this here, on the 10th of Muharram, my Rasul, my Prophet, that I love the most. Every one of us who claims to be a mu'min should love the most. My Prophet is not comfortable in his grave. He leaves his grave, symbolically. And he ends up in Karbala. And the dust of Karbala, soils his garments. His hair is disheveled. He's in a state of pain and sorrow. And what is he doing from the morning? Every drop of blood that is falling on the battlefield of Karbala, my Rasul is picking up. He says, this blood is too valuable. After all, it's my blood. It's my blood. And nobody knows the value and the weight of this blood. Because when Yahya, the narration says, Tafsir says, when Yahya alayhi salatu wasalam was martyred, blood continued to come out from his grave for days on end. Because of the jalal of his being martyred mercilessly like this one here. Imagine if the qatra of blood of Al-Hussein and his family were to touch the floor. Rasulullah knows its value. This time there become an earthquake right here. My Rasul is picking up every droplet of blood. And you and I today engage in a smear campaign against his family? Huh? No, nothing important. Nothing happened in Karbala. Don't bother about it. Don't talk about it. Don't mourn it. My Rasul is crying. My Rasul is weeping. My Rasul is in Karbala. He's disheveled. He's heartbroken. And I mustn't feel bad about it. I must go out and celebrate and give out gifts. Hello, happy Ashura. Hello, happy Ashura. Hello, happy Ashura. Really? Really? It may be permissible in terms of weak hadith, but a strong iman will never allow me to do that. The weak hadith will allow you to celebrate the day of Ashura as the day of happiness, but my strong iman, inshallah ta'ala, won't allow me to do that. I'd rather spend my time in mourning, in terms of Sharia mourning, and loving Hussein, and remembering him and Ahlul Bayt, hoping shafa'ata jaddihi yawm al-hisabi. Inshallah ta'ala. Wa ma alayna al-bala. Jazakumullah khair. We'll conclude the salatu salam, inshallah ta'ala, and then there'll be refreshments thereafter, inshallah. Wa ma alayna al-bala.
سلطان کربلا کو ہمارا سلام ہو سلطان کربلا کو ہمارا سلام ہو جانان مصطفیٰ کو ہمارا سلام ہو سلطان کربلا کو اکبر سے نو جوان بھی رن میں ہوئے شہید اکبر سے نو جوان بھی رن میں ہوئے شہید ہم شکل مصطفیٰ کو ہمارا سلام ہو سلطان کربلا کو اصغر کی ننھی جان پر لاکھوں درود ہو اصغر کی ننھی جان پر لاکھوں درود ہو مظلوم بے خطا کو ہمارا سلام ہو سلطان کربلا ہو کر شہید قوم کی کشتی تیرا گئے ہو کر شہید قوم کی کشتی تیرا گئے امت کے ناخدا کو ہمارا سلام ہو سلطان کربلا کو ہمارا سلام ہو جانان مصطفیٰ کو ہمارا سلام ہو سلطان کربلا کو
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والجنة للموحدين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسوله أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا وشفيعنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين اللهم إنا نسألك فعل الخيرات وترك المنكرات وحب المساكين وأن تغفر لنا وترحمنا وإذا أردت بعبادك فتنة فتوفنا غير مفتونين ونسألك حبك وحب من يحبك وحب عمل يقربنا إلى حبك لي 5 أطفي بها حر الوباء لحاطمة المصطفى والمرتضى وابناهما والفاطمة إلهي بحق بني فاطمة يبر قول إيما كنم خاتمة أجر دعوة مرد كني وركبول منو دست دامان آل رسول وصلى الله تعالى على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلي وفاطمة وحسن وحسين وآله وأصحابه بعد كل مخلوقاتك. Just indulge me for 1 minute. I'm going to make the same dua and recite the same dua. that Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam made in Karbala itself. And the Holy Prophet, and it was recorded by him. And he read this dua. And we will do what he did, inshallah ta'ala. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa Ali wa Fatimatin wa Hasanin wa Husaini wa alihi wa ashabi bi'adli kulli makhluqatik. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma anta thiqati fi kulli karbin wa raja'i fi kulli shiddatin wa anta li fi kulli amrin nazal bi thiqatun wa udda. فكم من هم يضعف فيه الفؤاد وتقيل فيه الحيلة ويخذل فيه الصديق ويشمت فيه العدو فأنزلته بك وشكوته إليك رغبة فيك إليك عمن سواك ففرجت وكشفت وكفيتني فأنت ولي كل نعمة وصاحب كل حسنة ومنتهى كل غاية. The dua is this: Ya Allah, it is you in whom I trust amidst all this grief. You are my hope amidst all of this violence. You are my trust and provision in everything that happens to me. No matter how much the heart may seem to weaken in it, trickery may seem to diminish my hope in it, the friend may seem to desert me in it, and the enemy may seem to rejoice in my plight. It comes upon me through you, and when I complain to you of it, it is because of my desire for you and you alone. Allahu Akbar. It is because of my desire for you and you alone. You have comforted me in everything, Ya Allah, and revealed its significance to me, Ya Allah. You are the master of all grace, the possessor of all goodness, and the ultimate result of all of our desires and wishes. Wa sallallahu ta'ala ala sayyidina wa maulana Muhammadin wa Ali wa Fatimatin wa Hasanin wa Husaini wa alihi wa ashabi bi'adli kulli makhluqatik. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun al mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
If you're within the range of this sound, then it can only be the one and only Azam Khans of Reservoir Hills. For professional digital sound system and bridal decor, contact AK Khan 082-786-4322 or catch Yunus Khan 083-786-5322. Big or small, we handle them all. We lead, others follow. The name is Azam Khans, the leaders in